Three men attacked a woman in a restaurant. 17 seconds later, they were unconscious on the floor. From which city around the world are you watching today? If this story moves you, please subscribe to Rising Life Stories to help us share more stories of hidden heroes. But those 17 seconds changed everything. The quiet woman sitting alone in the corner booth wasn't just any diner. She was Riley Stroud, a decorated Navy SEAL veteran with 12 years of combat experience and 3 tours in Afghanistan. She had been trying to live a peaceful civilian life, working as a part-time mechanic and avoiding the spotlight that came with her military service. What the 3 attackers didn't know was that Riley held advanced certifications in hand-to-hand combat, had trained thousands of special operations personnel, and possessed reflexes honed by years of life-or-death missions. When they chose to assault an innocent woman right in front of her, they triggered instincts that 12 months of retirement hadn't dulled. The entire confrontation was captured on multiple phones, and within hours, the video had gone viral worldwide. But this wasn't just another fight video. It was the moment a hero revealed herself to protect someone who couldn't protect themselves, and a reminder that some warriors never truly leave the battlefield. Mama Rosa's Italian restaurant in downtown Portland had always been Riley Stroud's sanctuary. Tucked away on a quiet side street, it offered the kind of anonymity that she had craved since leaving the Navy 12 months earlier. At 34, Riley was trying to build a civilian life that bore no resemblance to the intense world of special operations that had defined her 20s and early 30s. She sat in her usual corner booth, dressed in jeans and a simple gray sweater that concealed the scars from 3 combat deployments and countless training exercises. To fellow diners, she appeared to be just another customer enjoying a quiet Saturday evening meal. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her understated appearance suggested someone who worked with her hands rather than someone who had spent 12 years as one of the Navy's most elite warriors. Riley had chosen Mama Rosa's precisely because it was unremarkable. The restaurant attracted families, couples on dates, and solo diners who valued good food over flashy ambiance. It was the kind of place where a retired Navy SEAL could eat dinner without being recognized or questioned about her service record. Her retirement from active duty had been voluntary, but emotionally complex. After 12 years of high-stakes missions, Riley had reached a point where the constant adrenaline and life-or-death decisions had begun to take their toll. She wanted to experience the normal civilian life that she had protected, but never truly lived. Working part-time as a mechanic at a local auto shop provided just enough income to support her modest lifestyle, while giving her hands-on work that helped channel the restless energy that came with adjusting to civilian routines. Her co-workers knew she was former military, but had no idea about the classified missions that had taken her to 12 countries and earned her commendations that would never appear in any public record. The evening had started like dozens of others, Riley enjoying a quiet meal while reading a book about motorcycle restoration. She had learned to appreciate these moments of peace, understanding that the hypervigilance required for special operations could make relaxation difficult for veterans transitioning to civilian life. But even in retirement, Riley's training never fully switched off. She automatically noted the restaurant's exits, assessed the other diners for potential threats, and maintained the kind of situational awareness that had kept her alive through 3 combat tours. It was this ingrained vigilance that first drew her attention to the 3 men who entered Mama Rosa's at 7:30 p.m. The men were clearly intoxicated, their loud voices and unsteady movements suggesting they had been drinking for several hours before arriving at the restaurant. Riley categorized them immediately. Mid-20s, probably blue-collar workers celebrating something, lacking the discipline that comes with military service or serious athletic training. Under normal circumstances, Riley would have simply finished her meal and left before any potential trouble developed. She had no interest in confrontation and had promised herself that her fighting days were behind her. But as the 3 men were seated at a table near the center of the restaurant, their behavior began to escalate in ways that triggered her protective instincts. The men's waitress was Maria Santos, a young woman in her early 20s who was working her way through college by serving tables at Mama Rosa's. Riley had chatted with Maria several times during previous visits and knew she was a single mother supporting a 4-year-old daughter while pursuing a nursing degree. From the moment Maria approached their table, the three men's behavior was inappropriate. They made comments about her appearance, tried to touch her arm when she took their order, and laughed among themselves in ways that clearly made Maria uncomfortable. Riley watched Maria maintain her professional composure while trying to minimize her interactions with the increasingly aggressive customers. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Maria said politely as one of the men grabbed her wrist when she tried to refill their water glasses. "Please don't touch me. I'm just here to serve your dinner." The largest of the three men, who appeared to be their leader, laughed and tightened his grip on Maria's wrist. "Come on, sweetheart. We're just being friendly. Why don't you sit down and have a drink with us?" Riley felt her muscles tense as she watched Maria try to extract herself from the situation without causing a scene. The restaurant's other patrons were beginning to notice the commotion, but no one seemed willing to intervene on Maria's behalf. Riley closed her book and focused completely on the developing situation at the center table. Her 12 years of combat experience had taught her to recognize when a situation was moving from uncomfortable to dangerous, and everything about the three men's behavior suggested they were crossing that line. Maria had managed to free her wrist from the first man's grip, but their harassment was becoming more aggressive in public. Other diners were watching with obvious discomfort, but the social dynamics that prevented civilian intervention were allowing the situation to escalate unchecked. "Please, I need to serve other customers," Maria said, her voice carrying a tremor that suggested growing fear rather than simple annoyance. The second man, emboldened by alcohol and his friend's encouragement, stood up and blocked Maria's path to other tables. "What's your hurry, honey? We're paying customers. You should be more accommodating." Riley's situational assessment shifted from observation to preparation. She recognized the pattern that was developing. Three intoxicated men, emboldened by group dynamics and alcohol, escalating their harassment of a woman who was trying to do her job. She had seen similar situations in bars near military bases, and she knew how quickly they could turn violent. The restaurant manager, an elderly man named Giuseppe, who had owned Mama Rosa's for 30 years, approached the table with obvious reluctance. "Gentlemen, please keep your voices down. This is a family restaurant." The largest of the three men turned his attention to Giuseppe with the kind of aggressive dismissiveness that bullies typically showed to authority figures they didn't respect. "Mind your own business, old man. We're just having a conversation with the waitress." Giuseppe looked around the restaurant nervously, clearly hoping that someone else would intervene or that the situation would resolve itself without requiring him to take further action. But his hesitation only encouraged the three men's belief that they could act without consequences. Riley made a decision that she had been hoping to avoid. She stood up from her corner booth and began moving slowly toward the center of the restaurant. Her movement was casual but purposeful, designed to position herself within range of the developing threat without appearing confrontational. "Maria," the third man called out, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "Why don't you forget about these other losers and focus on customers who know how to tip properly?" Maria's professional composure was beginning to crack under the sustained harassment. Riley could see tears forming in the young woman's eyes as she tried to maintain her dignity while being publicly humiliated by customers she couldn't simply walk away from. "Please," Maria whispered, "I just want to do my job." The largest man laughed and reached out to grab Maria's uniform shirt. "Your job is to make customers happy, sweetheart, and right now you're not doing a very good job." That physical contact crossed the line from harassment to assault. Riley's military training classified the situation as an immediate threat requiring intervention. Every instinct developed through years of protecting others kicked in automatically. "Excuse me," Riley said, her voice carrying across the restaurant with the kind of quiet authority that experienced soldiers recognized immediately. "I think the lady asked you to leave her alone." The three men turned toward Riley with expressions that showed surprise and growing irritation. They had been operating under the assumption that no one in the restaurant would challenge their behavior, and Riley's intervention disrupted their sense of impunity. "This isn't your business, lady," the largest man said, releasing Maria's shirt but maintaining his aggressive posture. "Why don't you go back to your table and mind your own business?" Riley remained calm, but her positioning had shifted subtly to give her optimal angles for defensive action if the situation escalated further. "I'm making it my business. The young woman asked you to stop. It's time for you to respect that request." The second man stepped closer to Riley, apparently believing that intimidation tactics that worked on other civilians would be effective against her. "You want to make this your problem? Because we can make it your problem real quick." Riley's response was measured and professional. "I don't want any trouble. I just want you to treat the waitress with respect, pay your bill and enjoy your evening, but stop harassing her." But the three men had passed the point where reasonable requests would be effective. Their group dynamics, fueled by alcohol and a sense of masculine challenge, had created a situation where backing down would be perceived as weakness. They had committed to confrontation, and Riley understood that de-escalation was no longer possible. "You know what?" the largest man said, moving aggressively toward Riley. "I think you need to learn some manners." Riley had hoped that her calm intervention would be enough to diffuse the situation, but the three men's body language told her that they had decided to respond to her request with violence. She quickly assessed her tactical position: 3 opponents, no weapons visible, multiple civilians in the potential combat zone, and the need to end any physical confrontation as quickly as possible to minimize collateral damage. The largest man, who stood approximately 6 feet tall and weighed around 220 pounds, stepped directly into Riley's personal space with the kind of aggressive posturing that was designed to intimidate. His 2 companions flanked him, creating a triangle formation that suggested they had experience with group intimidation tactics. "Last chance to walk away," the man said, his breath reeking of alcohol. "Otherwise, you're going to learn why smart women don't get involved in men's business." Riley's response was calm and direct. "Sir, I'm asking you one more time to leave the waitress alone and behave appropriately in this restaurant. No one wants this situation to escalate." But even as she spoke, Riley was mentally preparing for the physical confrontation that she could see was inevitable. Her 12 years of Navy SEAL training had included extensive instruction in hand-to-hand combat, specifically designed for situations where conventional weapons weren't available or appropriate. The key to handling multiple opponents was speed, precision, and the element of surprise. Riley needed to neutralize the primary threat immediately, then deal with his companions before they could coordinate their attacks or involve innocent bystanders in the violence. "You want to play hero?" the largest man said, reaching out to grab Riley's shoulder. "Let's see how tough you really are." That physical contact triggered Riley's defensive protocols. The moment his hand touched her shoulder, 12 years of combat training took over, and Riley's civilian persona disappeared entirely. Her first move was a simple but devastating technique. She grabbed the man's extended wrist with both hands, stepped forward to break his balance, and applied a joint lock that sent him crashing to the restaurant floor in less than 2 seconds. The sound of his impact with the wooden floor was loud enough to silence every conversation in the restaurant. The second man reacted exactly as Riley had anticipated, stepping forward with a wild haymaker punch that telegraphed his intentions clearly enough for her to counter effortlessly. She ducked under his swing, delivered a precise strike to his solar plexus that doubled him over, and used his forward momentum to drive him face first into the nearest table. The third man had enough time to understand that his friends were being systematically destroyed by someone who clearly possessed professional fighting skills. He pulled out his phone, apparently intending to call for help or record the confrontation, but Riley closed the distance between them before he could complete either action. A single, precise strike to a nerve cluster in his neck rendered him unconscious before he hit the floor. The entire confrontation had lasted exactly 17 seconds, and all 3 attackers were incapacitated without Riley sustaining any injuries or causing unnecessary harm to the restaurant's property. The silence that followed was profound. Every patron and staff member in Mama Rosa's stared at Riley with expressions ranging from shock to amazement. The quiet woman who had been reading a book in the corner booth had just neutralized 3 aggressive men with the kind of efficiency that suggested professional military training. Riley immediately shifted back to her civilian demeanor, checking on Maria to ensure she hadn't been injured and surveying the restaurant to assess whether any bystanders had been affected by the brief but intense confrontation. "Are you okay?" Riley asked Maria, whose expression showed complete amazement at what she had just witnessed. Yes, I think so, Maria replied. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. Riley's response was characteristically modest. You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same thing. But Giuseppe, who had witnessed the entire sequence of events, understood that what Riley had just accomplished was far beyond the capabilities of anyone. He approached her with obvious respect and concern. Miss, that was extraordinary. Are you injured? Should we call the police? Riley looked down at the three unconscious men, understanding that their condition would require medical attention and that law enforcement would need to document the incident. She also realized that her carefully maintained anonymity was about to be shattered by the dozen phones that had recorded every second of the confrontation. Within minutes, Mama Rosa's was swarming with emergency responders. Paramedics attended to the three unconscious men, police officers took statements from witnesses, and Riley found herself trying to explain her actions to Detective Sarah Martinez, who had been assigned to investigate the incident. Ms. Stroud, Detective Martinez said, reviewing her initial statement, witnesses say you neutralized three aggressive men in approximately 17 seconds using what appeared to be professional combat techniques. Can you explain your background? Riley had hoped to avoid revealing her military service, but the efficiency of her defensive actions made it impossible to claim that she was simply a civilian who had gotten lucky. I'm a retired Navy SEAL detective. I served 12 years in special operations. Detective Martinez's expression showed immediate understanding. That explains the technique. These three men have been arrested for assault and disorderly conduct. Your actions appear to be completely justified self-defense and defense of others. The investigation that followed was straightforward. Multiple witnesses confirmed that Riley had intervened only after the three men had physically assaulted Maria and had used only the minimum force necessary to end the threat. The men's blood alcohol levels were well above legal limits, and their history of similar incidents made them unsympathetic defendants. But the real story was unfolding online. Several restaurant patrons had recorded the confrontation on their phones, and the video of Riley's 17-second neutralization of three attackers had gone viral within hours. The footage showed a quiet woman calmly and efficiently ending a dangerous situation with the kind of precision that left viewers amazed and inspired. The video's caption, "Navy SEAL Veteran Protects Waitress from Three Attackers," spread across social media platforms worldwide. Riley's identity remained protected in most news coverage, but her actions had become a symbol of the quiet heroism that military veterans often displayed in civilian life. Maria Santos became the video's most vocal advocate, using her social media presence to praise the guardian angel who had protected her from a potentially dangerous assault. She didn't have to get involved, Maria posted. She could have just watched like everyone else, but she stood up for someone she didn't even know because it was the right thing to do. The incident also sparked broader conversations about the transition challenges faced by military veterans and the valuable skills they brought to civilian communities. Riley's demonstration of controlled, precise intervention became a teaching example in self-defense courses and military transition programs. 2 weeks after the incident at Mama Rosa's, Riley was back to her routine of quiet dinners and motorcycle repair, but her life had changed in ways she was still processing. The viral video had brought unwanted attention, but it had also connected her with other veterans who were struggling with similar transition challenges. Giuseppe had insisted that Riley's meals at Mama Rosa's would be complimentary for life, and the restaurant had become an unofficial gathering place for local veterans who wanted to express their appreciation for her actions. Maria had returned to work with renewed confidence, knowing that there were people willing to stand up for those who couldn't protect themselves. The three attackers had been sentenced to community service and mandatory alcohol counseling. Their assault charges and the viral video of their defeat had made them local examples of why harassment and assault had serious consequences. None of them had been seriously injured, but their egos had been permanently damaged by the humiliation of being defeated by someone they had assumed was an easy target. Riley began volunteering at a local women's self-defense center, teaching basic techniques to help others protect themselves in dangerous situations. Her military background remained mostly private, but her expertise in de-escalation and defensive tactics became valuable resources for the community. The incident had reminded Riley that retirement from active duty didn't mean retirement from service to others. She had tried to leave her warrior identity behind, but the confrontation at Mama Rosa's had shown her that some aspects of military service, the commitment to protecting others and standing up for what's right, couldn't be simply switched off. Maria Santos had used the attention from the viral video to start a scholarship fund for single mothers pursuing education while working service jobs. Riley's intervention had not only protected Maria from immediate harm, but it also inspired a broader movement supporting vulnerable workers in the hospitality industry. The 17 seconds that changed everything had shown the restaurant full of people, and eventually millions of viewers worldwide, that heroes often look like ordinary people until circumstances require them to reveal their extraordinary capabilities. 6 months later, Riley Stroud had found a new balance between her civilian life and her identity as a protector. She continued working as a mechanic, but she also taught self-defense courses and mentored other veterans transitioning to civilian life. The video of her confrontation with the 3 attackers had been viewed over 50 million times worldwide, inspiring countless discussions about courage, preparation, and the responsibility to protect others. But Riley remained focused on the lesson she hoped people would take from the incident, that ordinary people could make extraordinary differences when they chose to act with courage and compassion. At Rising Life Stories, we believe that heroes walk among us every day, often unrecognized until moments of crisis reveal their true character. Riley Stroud's 17 seconds of action reminded the world that some people carry within themselves the skills and courage to protect others, regardless of the personal cost. Where are you watching from today? If this story of quiet heroism and instant justice inspired you, please subscribe and share, because there are veterans and heroes in every community whose service continues long after their uniforms are retired.